Good evening, everybody. My name is Dana Metcalfe, and I'm here on behalf of RavenNews and supporting our survivors. It's been a very difficult, challenging 3 years for many, with lots of different reasons: economy, finance, business, family. But for some, it has been truly tragic. We're bringing you this special series from across Canada, a very, very special group of men and women that have come together to bring awareness to the true tragedy of the COVID-19 vaccines. I personally have had the opportunity recently to talk to certain people in media, to have conversations about creating awareness, because this is a long game and this is far from over. We do have the WHO that's about to assume pandemic response, and we do have them also talking about upcoming pandemics. But the one thing that we are lacking, especially in Canada and around the world, is informed consent. Many people, many wonderful people have been injured. They have had lost loved ones. They've had situations where they've been told that they were crazy because what they were experiencing, the doctors were not allowed to tell them about it. We have doctors here in Newfoundland that did the best they could with the patients they had, but were suffocated by the College of Physicians and were forced to resign or threatened with their employment. So I'm here to tell you that it's real. You know, if any of you guys have been following, if you looked at the NCI is a wonderful organization that you can look up online that brings together a collection of many professionals from around Canada and around the world that is showcasing the vaccine injuries and the risks around the COVID-19 vaccine. Most of you have had a very difficult year, and I'm sorry that I have to bring you this broadcast to maybe trigger some of you to realize that you yourself have been vaccine injured but have been gaslit by your doctor. In April of 2021, there was a list of vaccine injuries that came out, injuries and side effects associated with the COVID-19 vaccine that lengthened over 9 pages long. Heart attacks, strokes, brain bleed, miscarriages, abortions, pulmonary edemas, increase in type 2 diabetes, and now it's associated with sudden adult death syndrome. I believe everybody that's watching this has been touched by this in some way or knows somebody. We cannot move forward pretending that these people are not struggling. We can't move forward pretending that what has happened in the last 3 years is okay. And we cannot ignore the silenced. The doctors were silenced. The victims were silenced. The true speakers were silenced. So I'm going to give you a bird's eye view in this series that we have coming up. We're in chapter 2 today. A bird's eye view into what happened to some survivors that are still here with us to tell the story where others have not. Yeah, so that's amazing. That's amazing. We've got 2 beautiful guests that we've had so far, and we've got little Miss Kelly sitting in the wings. Hi, Kelly. How are you today?
Hi, Dana. Hi, everyone. I'm doing really well. How are you?
I love your t-shirt. How come I don't have a t-shirt, Dallas? You got me down here wearing like this lovely non-effective t-shirt.
I'll get you one there. I'll get you one.
Yes, please. So Kelly, tell me everything. Tell me about, from your first experience. Did they tell you what to expect? Did you feel pressured? What you're dealing with today?
This has been a very long, extensive, draining journey, most definitely. But on the upside to that, it's been a rewarding one too. I'm one of the lucky ones. So I'll begin from the beginning. I, at the time, was a massage therapist. And during that time, when the vaccines were rolling out, I was noticing changes in clients. And I wasn't believing in the safe and effective narrative. So I didn't want the vaccine. The only reason why I vaccinated was because the risk of injury far outweighed the risk of becoming a childless mother. Here in Canada, at the time that I chose to vaccinate, pro-vax parents were winning in the Canadian court of law against the anti-vaxxed parents, which I was then labeled as. Funny, because I was never against any vaccination. I had them all. but this one wasn't sitting right. Needless to say, I got my first dose in July. It was July 27th, 2021. Within 6 weeks, my brain glitched. It had like electrical surges, as if you take two wires and stick them together and you hear the jolt.
Wow.
I could hear it, feel it, and I had a seizure and immediately fainted. I went to my doctor and he sent me for some blood work, and the results presented that I was healthy. So out of his mouth, verbally, he said, "Kelly, you're a perfect bill of health. The diagnosis I have for you today is stress." Because at that time, I was a brand new business owner. I had just opened my clinic in June of 2021, and that was my massage therapy clinic. Fast forward 5 months later, we're in February of 2022. And I call that year the most significant year of denial. I nearly died. And this was after I had a second dose as well. The second dose was November 3rd, 2021. So in February, I nearly died. I had a near-death experience. And from that moment forward, I was provided tools from God, our source energy. And those tools were of the unconventional medical model. It was all alternative, holistic, herbal remedies that really helped me. I utilized frequency therapy, laser therapy, hydrogen therapy, because our bodies, they were deprived of oxygen, and a slew of other things were happening. I did complete this. This is everything I experienced. 55 signs and symptoms to a perfectly healthy body. And at the time that I vaccinated, the initial vaccine, I was the healthiest I had ever been. And at that point in time, I was nearly 2 years pharmaceutical medicine free. So at the time of my injury, my hypothesis was correct. What I was feeling in my clients was happening internally in my body, only you couldn't see it on the outside. So I had lost 11 months worth of work. I had to close my clinic, and I did choose to retire my massage therapy license as a practitioner because the future was unknown. I didn't know if I was going to be able to return to work. I ended up losing my children. Last year, it was the end of the school year. They decided they didn't want to come back home to mom. They wanted to stay with their dad. And I can understand their reasonings because everything that surrounded them was heavy censorship. So while they experienced the injury with me, they didn't believe in it fully because mom looked okay on the outside. And because she looked okay and not so sick, she looked crazy. And I am grateful that they are now coming back into my life, but that was very traumatizing. For a mother to lose her children as she's dying and fighting the biggest battle of her life, and that's to save her life. But I did that, and I did that, like I said, with God and his healing tools. I'm very blessed, and I am very grateful for the journey, because without this journey, I wouldn't have the wisdom that I've attained. I wouldn't have the lessons that I've learned, and I wouldn't have the growth that I've sustained. Beyond my children, I also lost my marriage. My husband and I, we have separated recently. Many, many, many doors have been closed. But that saying is true. When these doors close, new doors open. So I am looking forward to whatever this future has in store. My faith is very strong, and I do believe that our days will get better.
Wow. My goodness, you've been through so much. I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm a mom too. I have two boys, and I went through some stuff myself, actually. Most people don't know I'm not vaccinated. I work on my own, and I mean, I was treated like a leper. And every time my 15-year-old son came home, he was telling me that somebody at school offered to take him to get vaccinated. And I ended up locking up my car on the highway. I kicked him out of the car. I dropped him off at his grandmother's house. Like, I understand. And I think that's one of the biggest things is the gaslighting, right? It's you're crazy. This isn't happening. You're different than somebody else. Like, the argument is still happening about the non-vaccinated. Like, I have an aunt that I just bumped into at the store that looks at me like I've got like 17 heads.
Yeah.
It's happening still. There were times when I'm sure your children didn't get invited places, and they knew the entire time. They knew the entire time that there were no differences between us. How many people I mean, we struggle from the vaccine injuries, but how many people actually had a vaccine injury that were in hospital that their families couldn't be there? Like, this is tragic. And I don't feel like we're totally in the clear. And Kelly, if you were right, everybody that went to fight for their children in the courts, I went with multiple people here and I helped them prepare. It was all the same. We stand with the College of Physicians. We stand with the College of Physicians. I served the College of Physicians in Newfoundland, and guess what they did? It was like 3:20 in the afternoon, and they were supposed to not close till 4 o'clock. They let me stuff the paperwork in the door and told me they were going to come back out and get me, and they ran out the back door. There was no accountability. Did you have any informed consent when you went? Did anybody explain to you that, like, the list of side effects or what you could expect?
There was absolutely no informed consent. And as a healthcare practitioner, you understand informed consent. And at the time of my injury, when I initially announced it, I announced it to my clinic and I announced it to the world, because if I'm experiencing this, someone else could experience this too. And when I did that, I was up in arms with my college of massage therapists in here in New Brunswick. I was threatened. I was advised that my license was at risk if I were to continue advising this information. But this information is accurate health information. And luckily, because it is, I was able to save my license at that particular time. And just very recently, after retiring my license, my renewal is at the end of December, beginning of January in each year. So earlier this year, during the winter months, I was really not in a good state. I was still couch bound. So it wasn't looking promising to return to work this year. Therefore, it just, logically speaking, it made no sense for me to pay hundreds of dollars into the college, not knowing if it was going to be beneficial for me or not. So in April, very end of April this year, I reached out to the registrar asking what the protocol would be for this situation, given that it's unprecedented times that we're living in history. I asked what it would be for return to practice, if it was possible. Immediately, I was advised no, that I would have to retake provincial exams, both written and practical, as if fresh out of graduating school. And I thought, there's no way I'm doing that. There's no way. So I reached out again, and they offered to put a vote through with the board of directors, and I never received an answer. So no response is a response. With that door being closed, that's okay. You can take away the registration, but you can't take away the massage. I can still massage. The only thing I can't do is use the registered massage therapy terms here in this regulated province. And this has opened a new door for me. So I'm actually back in school studying at the moment for a different modality.
And did anybody offer you any compensation for your lost wages or anything like that? Did the government come and say, hey, you're vaccine injured, let's compensate you in any way?
Absolutely not. And they're not doing it because the doctors aren't validating. The doctors that are still in practice, they don't want to hear the story that you're a vaccine injured. They fluff it off. And when they are tired of hearing it, They tell you that they're going to terminate your patient care, because that's what my family doctor did. He said, if you continue being this persistent, I'm just going to terminate your patient care.
Shift
They won't
accountability.
validate it.
And how do you feel about if we are faced with another pandemic?
I'm prepared. Honestly, I know it's coming. I would be lying if I sat here and said, it's not going to happen. That's foolish. It absolutely is going to happen. There was a simulation presented for COVID-19, and it was prepared before COVID-19 was in existence. There's another one out there, and coming in 2025. If you really want to know, you can go research. You will find the information. Many people are aware. Unfortunately, many people still are not aware. However, I do believe and I do feel that enough exposure from our circumstances has arose that many will not take that initiative. I feel that now they're going to be more conscientious of their body, and they're going to understand that, it is their body. They do have a choice. And also, just as I am the CEO of my health, all of you are the CEOs of your health. And I think now more than ever, people are waking up to that awareness.
I think so too. Thank you, Kelly. I'm grateful to meet you, and I love your tenacity. You're just ready to go. Me too, right? That's why we're here. Faced with incredible challenges, we dig deep and then we get stronger. What is it they say? The path to enlightenment wasn't paved with gold streets or something like that, meaning that the biggest building of characters are those of us that struggle. Or actually, a Newfoundland term is a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. That's the saying that we'll go with today, meaning that those of us that are in the trenches and that have been knocked around a bit in the last 3 years are going to be the ones that help co-pilot the ship in round 2, right?
Absolutely.
So welcome aboard, mateys. We've got a country to save.